Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 2 to 4 minute, sometimes as long as 6 to 10 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 2 to 4 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book your coworker won't stop raving about because it quote-unquote changed their life, but you can't see any difference in their leadership behavior. So how good could that author be? Maybe it's the fault of material reality itself. Leaders, material reality, the world we defined as quote-unquote real, has boundaries and upper limits. And those limitations always make themselves known to human beings in spite of, or in opposition to, the human tendency to ignore them. The internet has convinced many of us in our postmodern era, along with the seeming reality of intelligent technology known as social media, that material reality can be successfully abrogated in favor of whatever fantasies we have populating our overly fertile minds. Which leads us to this question: leaders, what is work for? This seemingly simple question comes with a seemingly simple answer. Work is for making the world, and for exploring, respecting, and honoring the limits and boundaries of material, and maybe even immaterial, reality. A less esoteric and philosophical level of answering this question would be this: human beings in the West do work to get paid money, or to create capital or earn revenue, to buy other goods and services that other people have created through work, in order to explore, respect, and honor the limits and boundaries of, well, reality. The idea that work, good work, the work of people in teams, and the work of people as individuals, the idea that this type of work needs to be broken down into its smallest possible increments and distributed among several individuals who will be compensated for their minuscule efforts and contributions, is a particular quirk related to a particular conception of how the world of work should work that's deeply grounded not in historical reality, but in the 20th century. By the way, good work can be segregated, and should be, from excellent high-quality work and craftsmanship, but it should also be segregated from mediocre work, which in our time is mere slop. Material reality pushes back against the conception of managed quote-unquote good work in all kinds of ways, because the management of good work creates a moral standard around that good work and even encourages the development of a moral standard based in atheistic existentialism within the people doing the work. This moral standard, untethered from the boundaries of material reality itself, with all of its hard and cold boundaries, shifts and moves in a deeply dynamic society and a culture that has divorced itself from the cornerstone book of Western civilization. What can leaders do about all this? Well, the first thing to do, and how leaders have to do this at a deeply personal and even individual level, the first thing to do is acknowledge and interact with material reality by taking on work, mediocre, good, or excellent, it doesn't matter what type of work it is, as an antidote to the shimmering fantasy world presented by intellectual technology. By the way, this work should be in the material world. It should be work done with your physical hands. Now, maybe that's a really hard ask, and maybe that will require you to sacrifice something you value as a leader more than you've ever valued the work, or even yourself. Or maybe, just maybe, it's time for you to stop making excuses. And well, that's it for me.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast today. And now that you've made it this far, you should subscribe to the audio version of this show on all the major podcast players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.